Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Ameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you ever sat alone late at night when the world becomes quiet and your heart finally speaks? That moment when the noise fades and something inside you whispers, I just want to be close to Allah again. It's strange how the soul remembers what the mind forgets, that we were never created to carry our burdens alone. Sometimes Allah allows your heart to break, not to punish you, but to soften you, to make space for Him. And in those moments of confusion, when you're asking, why me? Allah is already preparing something better for you. Allah says that He is closer to you than your own jugular vein, closer than your fears, closer than your wounds, closer than the thoughts you never tell anyone. You think your pain is unnoticed? You think your tears fall without meaning? Every tear you shed is collected by the one who knows every secret of your heart. Remember, the Prophet taught us that Allah is more loving to His servants than a mother to her child. So how could He ever let your heartbreak be the end of your story? Every delay you face is not a denial, it is a divine rearrangement. You don't see the wisdom yet because Allah is writing a chapter you're not ready to read. And one day when the pieces fit together, you'll look back and say, SubhanAllah, this is why it had to be this way, Bert. This is what sabr truly means. Not sitting with helplessness, but standing with trust. Sabr is when your heart is shaking, but your faith is steady. When everything hurts, but you still whisper, Ya Allah, I don't understand, but I rely on you. That whisper alone is worship. That whisper can change your destiny. Maybe you've been waiting for a dua to be answered. Maybe you've been asking for healing, for love, for clarity, for peace, and it feels like nothing is changing. But something is changing you. Your heart is being molded, purified, prepared for what you asked for, because Allah never gives a blessing to a heart that isn't ready to hold it. So breathe, slow down. Your story is not stuck. You are exactly where Allah wants you to be at this moment. And His plan is far more beautiful than the one you're grieving over. If your heart is tired, remember, the Quran was sent as healing. If your soul feels heavy, remember Allah is Al-Latif, subtly guiding, gently caring, lovingly nurturing. He has never forgotten you, not for a second, not in your darkest moment, not in the silence of your nights. Take one step back toward Him, one sincere dua, one moment of dhikr, one honest conversation with your Lord. Because when you walk toward Allah, He runs toward you. And when you open your heart, He fills it with a peace the world cannot give. Deep inside your heart, the yearning you feel is not weakness. It is your soul recognizing its true home. So return to Him, trust Him. Let His mercy be the place where your heart finally rests. Every human heart, no matter where it comes from, what it has experienced, or how far it has wandered, carries within it a quiet, persistent longing, a yearning that nothing in this world can fully satisfy. You can chase achievements, people, approval, or moments of happiness. But after every accomplishment and every disappointment, there remains an emptiness that calls you back to something higher. That emptiness is not a flaw, it is a sign. It is Allah's way of reminding you that the heart was never designed to find its home in this temporary world. Sometimes this longing appears in the most unexpected moments, in the stillness of the night when the world grows silent, in times of heartbreak when everything feels heavy, or even in moments of joy when you realize the blessing is beautiful but still incomplete. The heart whispers, there must be more than this, and there is Allah. This yearning is the soul remembering its origin. Before you existed on earth, your spirit testified before Allah. Deep within you remains that memory, faint but powerful, a memory that pulls you toward prayer, toward forgiveness, toward finding meaning beyond material life. That pull is not weakness or confusion, it is guidance. It is a sign that no matter how far you feel you have drifted, Allah has kept a thread tied between your heart and Him. When people disappoint you, when life overwhelms you, when the world feels too loud or too empty, that internal pull becomes stronger. It reminds you that true peace, real fulfillment, and genuine healing cannot be found in creation, but only in the Creator. The heart longs to return, not because it is broken, but because it knows its true owner. And the moment you answer that longing, even with a single sincere dua, your heart begins to find its way back home. True peace begins when a believer understands that Allah has never abandoned them. There is a moment in every believer's life when the heart feels overwhelmed, when prayers seem unanswered, when challenges keep piling up, and when the silence feels heavy. In those moments, a whisper of doubt tries to convince you that you are alone. But true peace enters the heart the moment you realize that even when you felt forgotten, Allah was carrying you in ways you couldn't see. Allah's presence is not measured by how easy your life is. His presence is felt in the strength you didn't know you had, in the patience that grew from your pain, in the clarity that arrived after confusion, and in the quiet comfort that comes when you whisper His name. Allah does not abandon His servants. He guides them through storms so they emerge purified, stronger, and closer to Him than they were before. Sometimes Allah hides His wisdom behind delays, hardships, or heartbreaks, not to distance Himself from you, but to draw you nearer. When life becomes difficult, it's not a sign of abandonment, it's a sign of preparation. Allah prepares the heart through trials, the way gold is purified through fire. And though the process is painful, the result is beautiful. Peace begins when you stop interpreting hardship as rejection and start seeing it as attention from the Most Merciful. Allah knows your tears, your struggles, your silent frustrations, and the weight you carry even when you pretend to be strong. He has been with you in every moment, during your mistakes, your regrets, your growth, and your healing. When the heart finally understands that Allah has been closer than anyone else, that He has never left for even a heartbeat, a deep calm settles within. You stop fearing the future, stop resenting the past, and begin trusting the One who has been protecting you all along. Peace begins when you return to Him with certainty, knowing that His care has never wavered and never will. Every hardship carries a hidden mercy and a divine lesson. Hardship is one of the greatest teachers a believer encounters, though it rarely feels that way in the moment. When pain arrives, it brings confusion, fear, and a sense of vulnerability that makes the heart wonder why things had to unfold this way. But behind every difficulty, even the ones that shake you to your core, there is a hidden mercy that Allah has placed with perfect wisdom. You may not see that mercy immediately. Sometimes it's concealed beneath layers of disappointment, loss, or waiting. Yet with time, reflection, and faith, you begin to notice how that hardship shaped you. It humbled your ego, softened your heart, deepened your dua, and made you aware of how desperately you depend on Allah. Without that trial, you might have remained distant, unaware, or spiritually asleep. Hardship pushes you toward growth in ways comfort never could. It strips away illusions of control and exposes the reality that everything rests in Allah's hands. Through difficulty, you learn to rely on Him more sincerely, to pray with more urgency, and to see life with clearer eyes. You realize that every heartbreak taught you compassion, every delay strengthened your patience, and every setback redirected you toward something better. Mercy is not always the absence of pain. Often, it is pain with a purpose. A believer discovers that Allah uses trials to elevate the soul, purify the heart, and prepare it for blessings that cannot be carried by an untested spirit. The divine lesson hidden in hardship is that nothing happens to break you, it happens to build you. When you look back at moments that once felt unbearable, you often find gratitude instead of bitterness. You recognize that Allah was protecting you, guiding you, and writing a chapter of your life that you needed, even if you didn't understand it at the time. And that realization transforms hardship into a source of spiritual strength, reminding you that every trial is wrapped in mercy, waiting to be discovered. Allah's timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully delayed. One of the most difficult realities for the human heart to accept is that what we want, when we want it, is not always what is best for us. We make plans, we dream, we hope, and when our expectations don't unfold on our schedule, the delay can feel like a form of rejection. But the truth is, Allah's timing is never random. It is crafted with precision, care, and a wisdom far beyond what we can comprehend. There are moments when you pray for something with full sincerity, pouring your heart out, only to find that nothing seems to change. You wait, you wonder, and sometimes you even break down thinking your dua has been ignored. But Allah never ignores a prayer. He either gives you what you ask for, gives you something better, or saves you from something you didn't see coming. The delay itself is part of the answer. Sometimes the timing isn't right because you aren't ready yet. A blessing delivered prematurely can turn into a burden. Allah delays certain things to strengthen your heart, refine your intentions, and prepare you spiritually so that when the blessing finally arrives, you can handle it with gratitude, wisdom, and maturity. And often, Allah is arranging events, people, and circumstances in ways you cannot imagine, aligning everything so that what comes your way arrives at the perfect moment. Delays also teach trust, detach the heart from impatience, and remind you that your life is unfolding according to divine decree, not human timelines. What feels like a painful wait is often a divine protection. Allah might be shielding you from harm, redirecting you towards something more fulfilling, or holding back something you desire because He knows it will serve you best later. When you look back at moments where you thought the wait was unbearable, you'll often realize it led you to exactly what you needed. And in that realization, you see the beauty of Allah's timing, always perfect, always intentional, and always filled with mercy. Faith grows strongest in moments of silence, tears, and vulnerability. There is a sacred alchemy that takes place when the soul is stripped of its defenses and left alone with its longing for Allah. In the hush of night, when voices stop and masks fall away, the heart becomes honest. It confesses its weakness, cries for mercy, and remembers its dependence. Those quiet moments are not empty, they are fertile ground where Iman faith is watered by sincere longing and purified by surrender. Tears are not signs of failure, but of awakening. Each teardrop can be a prayer in motion, a humility that reaches the most merciful more surely than loud proclamations of piety. Vulnerability is the doorway through which Allah's light enters. For when we admit our need, we stop bargaining with pride and begin to seek Him from a place of truth. The believer who cultivates silence learns to listen to the whispers of guidance. In stillness, the heart hears the Quran differently, not as recitation, but as direct nourishment. Allah speaks to the quiet heart. The Prophet showed us that the most powerful moments of worship are often private, where sincerity replaces performance. Sabr and tawakkul are forged in these small, unseen acts, the surrendered breath, the whispered dua, the tear that falls without show. Over time, these intimate encounters build a resilience that is not brittle but deep-rooted, a faith that does not collapse under trial because it has been tempered in solitude. When life roars, this inner quiet becomes an anchor. The believer who has wept and turned inward before difficulty will meet hardship differently, with a steady trust that has already been practiced in silence. In that way, sorrow becomes schooling and vulnerability becomes strength. The heart learns that closeness to Allah is not achieved through noise or certainty, but through humble admission of need and consistent, quiet remembrance. Sabr is not passive endurance. It is a courageous act of trusting Allah. Many people misunderstand sabr as simply putting up with pain or staying quiet through hardship. But in Islam, sabr is an active, intentional, and deeply spiritual state. It means holding your heart steady when everything around you feels uncertain. It means resisting the urge to panic when life takes an unexpected turn. It means choosing trust over fear, hope over despair, and dignity over emotional chaos. Sabr is strength. It takes strength to remain kind when you feel wounded, to stay grateful when you feel deprived, and to continue making dua when the answer seems delayed. That strength does not come from yourself. It comes from knowing that Allah sees you, knows your struggle, and will never let your patience go unrewarded. Sabr is the believer's shield, protecting the heart from bitterness, anger, and hopelessness. True sabr is also recognizing that hardships are temporary, but their rewards are eternal. It is understanding that Allah is not testing you to break you, but to build you. Every moment of restraint, every tear held back for His sake, every time you choose faith over frustration, you rise higher with Allah. You grow spiritually even when it feels like you are standing still. You mature in ways that comfort cannot teach. Sabr does not mean you do not feel pain. It means you refuse to let the pain turn you away from Allah. It means you breathe through the hardship, pray through the confusion, and persevere through the waiting. You carry your burden not because it is easy, but because you trust the one who placed it upon you. And when Allah finally brings relief, and He always does, you see how your patience shaped you. You realize you became softer, wiser, stronger, and more connected to Him. Sabr transforms the believer not by removing the hardship, but by refining the heart within it. Tawakkul means letting go of the illusion of control and embracing divine wisdom. Human beings spend so much of their lives trying to manage every detail, trying to predict outcomes, trying to secure their own happiness. But the truth is that we control very little. Life shifts, circumstances change, people disappoint, and plans fall apart. Tawakkul is the moment you realize that surrendering to Allah brings more peace than holding tightly to everything that was never in your control. This spiritual trust does not mean giving up effort. It means giving up anxiety over results. You still work, you still plan, you still take responsible steps, but you leave the outcome in Allah's hands, knowing that His plan is better than anything you could design for yourself. Tawakkul is a relationship of the heart, where your reliance is rooted in certainty that Allah never wastes the effort of those who seek Him sincerely. Letting go is difficult because fear whispers that if you stop controlling everything, things will fall apart. But in reality, things fall apart precisely when the heart becomes obsessed with control. Tawakkul teaches you to breathe, to step back, and to trust that Allah is arranging the unseen for your benefit. What you fear losing might be something Allah is replacing with something higher. What you think is delayed might be arriving at the perfect moment. What you think is painful might be protecting you from a harm you cannot see. Tawakkul lifts an invisible weight from the heart. It frees you from the constant pressure of trying to shape your destiny alone. It reminds you that you are not navigating life by yourself. Allah is with you, guiding you, sustaining you, and opening doors you never imagined. When you truly rely on Him, you stop chasing what was never meant for you and start receiving what was always destined for you. And the most beautiful part is this: when Allah sees a heart that trusts Him completely, He gives in ways that exceed expectation. Tawakkul doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your entire experience of life, filling it with peace, contentment, and a quiet certainty that you are under divine care. Every heartbreak is a redirection towards something purer and closer to Allah. When a person experiences loss, disappointment, or the collapse of a dream, it feels as though their world has been shaken. The heart aches, the future becomes uncertain, and the soul wonders why something so deeply desired slipped away. But often, what feels like the end is actually the beginning of a deeper transformation. Heartbreak is not a punishment. It is a divine turning point that gently pushes you away from what could harm your soul and guides you toward what will nourish it. Sometimes the heart attaches itself to people, places, or outcomes that were never meant to be permanent. Allah, in His perfect wisdom, removes them not to hurt you, but to protect you. The pain you feel is real, but so is the protection behind it. You may not realize it in the moment, but every closed door is redirecting you towards something better for your faith, your peace, and your spiritual growth. Allah knows what your heart does not yet understand. Heartbreak exposes the fragility of relying on creation instead of the Creator. It teaches you to place your trust not in temporary attachments, but in the one who never leaves. It softens the heart, humbles the ego, and makes the soul more receptive to divine guidance. Through pain, many people rediscover prayer, dua, and the comfort of turning back to Allah with sincerity they had forgotten. This redirection also purifies intentions. It allows you to see what truly matters and what was merely a distraction. What breaks you today may be saving you from a lifetime of difficulty. What hurts now may be the very thing that leads you to a future filled with peace and blessings. The heart that has been redirected learns to seek Allah first, knowing that everything else comes with His wisdom and timing. In the end, you realize the heartbreak wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of loving Allah more deeply, more honestly, and more completely than before. The soul is healed through Quranic reflection and sincere dua. There is a unique kind of comfort that no human voice can offer, no worldly achievement can replace, and no distraction can imitate. It is the comfort that comes when a believer sits with the words of Allah and allows them to speak directly to the wounds of the heart. The Quran is not just a book to be recited, it is a living message, a companion for the lonely, a guide for the confused, and a healing for the broken. When you recite its verses slowly, thoughtfully, and with an open heart, you begin to feel layers of sadness lift, not because your problems disappear, but because your heart reconnects with its creator. Every verse offers a reminder that Allah sees you, knows you, and understands every detail of your struggle. When you read about His mercy, you remember you are not alone. When you read about His wisdom, you realize that everything happening in your life has purpose. When you read about His promises, your hope returns. The Quran speaks to the parts of your soul that you didn't know needed healing. Alongside Quranic reflection is the intimate act of dua, a conversation between you and Allah that requires no formality, no perfect words, and no specific time. Dua is the moment when the heart unloads everything it has been carrying. It is pure honesty, vulnerability, and trust. Even when tears replace words, Allah understands. Even when your voice trembles, He listens. The more sincere your dua, the more your heart softens, and the more you feel a sense of calm that cannot be explained. Healing through the Quran and dua is not always immediate. Sometimes the heart heals slowly in small pieces as your connection with Allah strengthens. But with every verse recited and every dua whispered, something inside you shifts. You feel lighter, clearer, and more grounded. Bit by bit, the soul begins to find balance again. In this process, you discover that true healing does not come from escaping your pain, but from turning to Allah with it. Through His words and through sincere dua, He transforms your wounds into wisdom and your sadness into strength. Forgiveness softens the heart and invites Allah's mercy. Holding on to anger, betrayal, or past wounds feels natural at first because pain leaves an imprint. But as time passes, the weight of grudges becomes heavier than the original hurt. Unforgiveness traps the heart in bitterness, replaying the same memories over and over until peace becomes impossible. Islam teaches that forgiveness is not a favor you give to others. It is a form of liberation you give to yourself. It frees your heart from the prison of resentment and opens the door to emotional and spiritual healing. When you forgive, you are not saying what happened was acceptable. You are simply choosing not to let someone else's actions dictate the state of your soul. You are choosing growth over stagnation, serenity over turmoil, and Allah's pleasure over anger that consumes you from within. Allah loves those who forgive, not because forgiveness is easy, but because it is a high act of humility and spiritual maturity. It reflects a heart that values peace more than ego and mercy more than revenge. Forgiveness also teaches you to rely on Allah for justice. Not every wrong will be corrected in this world. Not every apology will come. Not every truth will be acknowledged. But Allah sees every wound, hears every silent complaint, and records every injustice. When you let go and trust His judgment, you free yourself from the burden of controlling what is beyond your reach. A softened heart becomes fertile ground for Allah's mercy. With forgiveness, your dua becomes purer, your prayers feel lighter, and your connection with Allah grows stronger. You begin to experience a peace that anger could never give you. Slowly, the heart that once felt heavy begins to breathe again. Forgiving others also teaches you to forgive yourself. Many people carry guilt and regret that weighs them down. But just as Allah invites you to show mercy to others, He invites you to show mercy to your own soul. When you release the past and return to Allah sincerely, His doors of forgiveness open widely. In the end, forgiveness is not merely an action, it is a transformation. It purifies the heart, welcomes divine mercy, and allows you to walk through life with grace, lightness, and a deeper closeness to Allah. Allah listens even when your voice trembles and your words are incomplete. One of the most comforting truths in Islam is that you do not need perfect speech, flawless eloquence, or beautifully structured du'as for Allah to hear you. You can come to Him broken, confused, overwhelmed, or unsure of what to say, and He still listens with full attention. Human beings often need clarity, explanation, or proof of your feelings, but Allah understands what is in your heart before your thoughts even form into words. There are moments when emotions choke your voice, when pain makes you silent, when your heart speaks louder than your tongue. In those moments, Allah hears you just as clearly. A sigh, a tear, a trembling breath, all of them are seen and known by the one who is closer to you than your own soul. You may struggle to express yourself, But your weakness does not lessen the power of your dua. In fact, it often increases it because sincerity shines brightest in vulnerability. When you turn to Allah in a state of emotional fragility, you are engaging in one of the purest forms of worship. You are showing Him that you rely on Him completely, that you trust Him with your secrets, and that you believe He can bring ease even when you cannot see the way forward. This reliance is beloved to Allah. He invites you again and again to call upon Him, not because He needs your dua, but because you need the peace that comes with surrendering your burdens to Him. Sometimes you feel too overwhelmed to ask for anything specific. You simply whisper, "Ya Allah, help me," and that alone is enough. Even if your tongue fails, your heart speaks. Even if your words fail, your tears pray. Even if your strength fails, your faith survives. And the beauty is that Allah responds, perhaps not in the way you expect, nor at the moment you desire, but in the way that is most merciful for you. He mends hearts quietly, guides souls gently, and replaces fear with calm in ways you may only understand later. The believer finds comfort in knowing that no plea is ever lost, no whisper unheard, and no cry ignored. Allah listens, always, especially when you feel you have nothing left but a trembling voice and a hopeful heart. Divine decree is not meant to break you, but to shape you. One of the greatest misunderstandings a person can carry is believing that the hardships written for them are signs of rejection, punishment, or abandonment. In reality, every moment of your life, the joy you celebrate, the pain you endure, the paths you walk, and the detours you never expected, all unfold according to Allah's perfect knowledge and mercy. Qadr is not a force that crushes you, it is a divine design that molds you into the person you are meant to become. There are moments when Qadr feels heavy. You lose something you deeply wanted, face challenges you never anticipated, or watch a chapter close before you were ready. You ask yourself, why this? Why now? But Qadr is not random. It carries layers of wisdom that are often hidden until the heart grows enough to understand them. Allah writes your story with precision, not just for your survival, but for your spiritual elevation. Every situation you face strengthens a particular part of you: patience, humility, resilience, gratitude, or trust. In family life, friendships, workplaces, and communities, this approach reduces conflict and builds trust. It sets a moral standard that people admire and naturally gravitate toward. Ultimately, repelling negativity with goodness turns a moment of potential harm into an opportunity for reward, growth, and connection with Allah.